football, you know that it's been a little bit of a rough year and a half for the organization, from the Deflategate incident to the Ray Rice incident to the child abuse of Adrian Peterson. It's been really difficult for them to keep their image in a positive light and to make sure that they're upholding their values. With that being said, for the class that I wrote this paper for, we did an analysis of accusation and defense. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to give a little bit of a background, and then I'm going to compare the two defenses within the situation. So the two that I'm going to be focusing on specifically, first is the explanation. Within this, there's what they do is they bolster. So the first thing that they do is they build themselves up. They try to connect with their audience and make sure that they're building up their image. And then they take themselves kind of out of the situation, saying, this is what happened, and I'm sorry that it happened, but I'm moving on from this. And then we also have the justification, which is almost like a honor me for what I've done, even though it's bad kind of situation. And with that, they're again trying to connect with the audience, and then kind of putting themselves outside of the situation, saying, I'm better than that. I admit that I did wrong, but that doesn't matter. Okay, so the first thing I'm going to talk about is NFL Commissioner Roger Goodell. When the first video was released, or before the first video was released, they were working on a new domestic violence policy because of the fact that there had been so many issues within the past that have been coming to light and making everyone kind of uneasy. So in the first video of Ray Rice that came out, if you guys don't know what that is, I'll show a video a little bit later. He was seen dragging his fiancée out of the elevator while she was unconscious, which issued him a 2-game suspension. 2 games. Now, if that happened to anyone other than someone that's, a big football star, they would end up in jail for that. But they thought that 2 games was enough to be suspended for. So that was his initial response with that. And he did not handle that very well, I would say. And a lot of people scrutinized him for that and the way that he handled the situation because of the fact that that's really not a great way to handle that. And then when we talk about, we're going to compare it to Ray Rice. So there are 2 different apology videos that he does. And the first one is, of course, after the first video was released. And we don't know what happened inside of the elevator at the time of the release of the first video. It just shows him pulling her out of the elevator. And so he apologizes in the first video, and then he goes on after the second video is released, and he apologizes in that one. The first time, he doesn't even apologize to his wife. He apologizes to his fans and to his coaches and to supporters. Never once apologizes to her specifically, which is pretty bad, and that enraged his fans a lot, and that took him 3 months to begin with to make the apology video in the first place. So I'm going to show a video. I don't know if the sound works, but you'll be able to see it. Yeah, I don't know how to. But so he's like dragging her out, and that's the first video that they released where he drug her out of the elevator. And then this is the second video that came out that was released by TMZ. Well, does it start over? And then it shows what happened outside of the elevator, and of course they go in. And then they're kind of, it's kind of a bickering back and forth between the 2 of them, and it's a little blurry, but you can see he hits her, it's pretty graphic, and then she falls against the rail, and then he drags her out. So the dragging her out of the elevator is what the first video was, and then TMZ released this video that showed him actually hitting her, which made Roger Goodell in the first place realize that his initial response to the situation was not good. He said that because of the ambiguity of the situation and they didn't know what happened inside of the elevator, that he didn't feel as though a greater reprimanding was needed. So after the first video came out, he started working on a new policy for the NFL, domestic violence, the domestic violence policy. So this came out a couple of months before the second video was posted by TMZ. when he talks about the video and he goes in there, he's explaining, he knows that what he did, the way that he handled the situation, he didn't handle it properly, and he admits that. And then he goes on to say that it wasn't his fault, basically, because he says the NFL wasn't given that second video, or the first video even. He said that no one in the NFL had seen that video because they weren't given the access to it. He said that they had asked for the video time and time again, and again they were told no after every time they asked, which a lot of people think is not really what happened, because if something like that happens, you usually do more research, and if there's a video, you would think a commissioner of a really big American organization would be able to get that. Apparently not. So he does a lot of image restoration to try to build up his reputation, to try to build up the reputation of the NFL. And he does this, again, by reducing offenses. We talk about image restoration. When he talks about going and trying to get the video and not having access to it, that's the main thing that he's doing with reducing offenses. He's like, well, we didn't have access to this, so if we didn't have access to it, then how are we supposed to know that that's what happened? Because it was, ambiguous the first time, because we don't know what happened inside the elevator. And then he evades responsibility. He says, well, we get our information from law enforcement, and this is what we rely on. And so if we don't have the correct information, then we can't address the situation appropriately. So that's the explanation posture that he uses. I'm going to talk a little bit about Ray Rice. So in his first video, he's sitting kind of at a table like this, conference table, normally, next to, at the time it was his wife. When the video came out, it was his fiance. She actually married him after this. So they're sitting next to each other, and she just looks upset the entire time. Her body language completely speaks volumes about the situation. And like I said previously, he does not once apologize to her during the 17-minute video of the conference. Does not once apologize to her, but he apologizes to, again, his fans, his coaches, his supporters, everyone other than her. Doesn't even look at her the entire time. But what he does is he admits that what he did was wrong, and he goes on to say, we're working on it. I'm better than this. I know I can do better than this. I have to be a leader in my home. And that's what he talks about with the justification. So that one's a little bit different than Roger Goodell. And then in the second video is when he admits that he didn't apologize to his wife initially. And so he goes on, he apologizes to her, and he said that was wrong, the situation was wrong. And then he differentiates by saying that, we're going to counseling, we're getting this fixed, we're making sure that everything that we do is for the good of our family. And so that's what happened in there. So when we look at the two situations together, they used, Ray Rice's second apology video, they used the same posture in order to explain themselves and to kind of build up their image back and make sure that everyone knew that they were regretful for what they had done. With that being said, the two, with them being in the spotlight as much as they are, it's important for them to have better leadership qualities than that. And so I just wanted to take the two sides of the situation and show how you can use the same explanation except on opposite sides of the spectrum. So it was kind of interesting to me to see that they could both apologize and then move on from the situation and really be able to have everyone understand, this is what happened and we're sorry for this and we're going to do better than what we were doing.